What happens when a CEO steps into his own supermarket and sees something that changes everything he thought he knew about his company? Ethan Dawson owned a small chain of 12 supermarkets scattered across 3 states. Once upon a time, he had been the one stacking shelves and running registers when his business was just one store. Now, he spent his days in boardrooms and overseeing reports. Lately, though, those reports had been gnawing at him. Customer complaints were rising, employee turnover was higher than ever, and the numbers didn't add up. Ethan felt disconnected, like he was losing touch with the heart of the company he built. Frustrated, he decided to go undercover. He told no one, not even his regional managers. With the help of a makeup artist, he transformed himself into Tom, a middle-aged man with graying hair, glasses, and a slight limp. The disguise was flawless, and since his employees had only ever seen him in corporate emails or the occasional video message, there was no reason for anyone to suspect him. He picked one of his mid-performing stores in a suburban area to start his investigation. Walking into the store as Tom, he immediately noticed things he hadn't seen in years. A leaky roof in the corner of the produce section. Employees looking tired and rushed. The manager, a tall man named Rick, leaning against a counter, scrolling on his phone while the lines at the registers grew longer. Ethan approached the customer service desk, where a young woman named Maya greeted him with a tired but polite smile. "Hi, how can I help you?" she asked. "I'm here to apply for the trainee position," Ethan said, holding up a flyer he had seen taped outside the store. "Sure thing," Maya said, grabbing a clipboard. As she handed it to him, Ethan noticed the dark circles under her eyes. "You can fill this out and bring it back. Rick will probably want to talk to you." He thanked her and quickly filled out the form, knowing this was just a formality. Soon, Rick appeared, barely glancing at the clipboard. "You're hired," he said, his tone indifferent. "We need people." "Can you start today?" Ethan nodded, trying to hide his surprise at how rushed and unprofessional it all felt. Within minutes, he was handed a uniform and put on register training. His trainer was a cheerful young cashier named Lily, who patiently walked him through the basics. She seemed to genuinely enjoy her job, but Ethan could see the stress in her movements, the way she kept glancing at the growing line. "Sorry," she said to a customer after fumbling with the scanner. "It's been a long day." "You're doing fine," the customer reassured her, but Ethan couldn't help noticing how frazzled she looked. After his training, Rick assigned Ethan to shadow Lily for the rest of the shift. It was during this time that Ethan witnessed something that stopped him in his tracks. A middle-aged woman with 2 small children approached Lily's register. She looked nervous, her hands clutching a small wallet. Lily greeted her warmly, scanning her items while chatting with the kids. When the total came up, the woman's face fell. She rummaged through her wallet, pulling out a few crumpled bills and coins. "I'm so sorry," the woman whispered, her voice shaky. "I don't think I have enough. Can you take off the milk and bread?" Ethan watched as Lily hesitated for a moment. Then, without missing a beat, she reached into her own pocket, pulled out a $20 bill and quietly handed it to the woman. "It's okay," she said with a soft smile. "You don't have to do that." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you." "I don't know what to say." "Just pay it forward someday," Lily replied, quickly bagging the groceries and handing them over before the woman could protest further. Ethan felt a lump rise in his throat. Here was an employee who was likely overworked and underpaid, yet she still went out of her way to show kindness. He couldn't understand how someone like Lily could thrive in a store that seemed to be falling apart in so many other ways. Later, during his break, Ethan tried to process what he had seen. He felt both proud and ashamed, proud that someone like Lily worked for him, but ashamed that he hadn't known about these struggles before. He thought back to Rick, who hadn't stopped by the registers once during the chaos, and Maya, who had looked exhausted just standing at the service desk. Something was wrong in his company, and now Ethan was determined to figure out exactly what. Day 2 of Ethan's undercover shift began with a pre-shift meeting led by Rick. Ethan arrived early, standing quietly at the back of the group as Rick slouched against the counter, sipping coffee and scrolling on his phone. When he finally looked up, his tone was clipped and dismissive. "All right, listen up," Rick said, not bothering to make eye contact with anyone. "We're down 2 people today, so it's gonna be busy. Just handle it, and if anyone has complaints, save them for later. I don't have time. Let's go." The staff exchanged uneasy glances but said nothing, dispersing quickly to their stations. Ethan noticed Maya rubbing her temples, and Lily offering a reassuring smile to a nervous-looking stockboy who appeared to be in his teens. "Hey, Tom," Lily said, walking over to him. "Looks like you're with me again, ready for another day in the trenches." "Yeah," Ethan replied, trying to match her energy. "Let's do it." As they went about their tasks, Ethan kept his eyes and ears open. He noticed how understaffed the store felt, with employees rushing to cover gaps. Maya was juggling both the service desk and answering phones. In the deli, the lone worker seemed close to tears as she struggled to keep up with orders. Meanwhile, Rick remained in the office or hovered near the front, offering no help and barking orders at anyone who dared approach him. Around mid-shift, Ethan was helping Lily bag groceries when a customer, an older man in a worn jacket, approached her register. He placed a few items on the belt and handed her a coupon. "This expired last week," Lily said gently, holding the coupon up. "Oh," the man said, his shoulders slumping. "I didn't realize. I don't think I can afford it without the discount." "Can you just put the eggs back?" Ethan watched as Lily's face softened. "Don't worry about it," she said, scanning the coupon anyway and covering the difference from her own pocket when the register locked her out. The man thanked her profusely, and Ethan felt the same mix of pride and guilt wash over him as the previous day. Later, during a lull in customers, Ethan decided to probe a little further. "You do a lot for people," he said to Lily. "Does the manager ever notice?" She gave a small, humorless laugh. "Rick, no, he doesn't care. As long as the numbers look good and the shelves are stocked, he's happy. Honestly, most of us just try to stay out of his way. What about the company? Do they recognize people for going above and beyond?" Lily hesitated, glancing around to make sure no one could overhear. "Not really. I mean, we get these generic Employee of the Month awards sometimes, but it's just a piece of paper. No raise, no extra hours, nothing that actually helps." Ethan nodded, his jaw tightening. He'd always believed in rewarding hard work, but somewhere along the way, that belief had gotten lost. By the afternoon, tensions in the store had reached a boiling point. A customer at another register was yelling at Maya, accusing her of overcharging. Maya's voice trembled as she tried to explain the situation, but the customer wouldn't relent. Rick finally emerged from the office, but instead of stepping in to de-escalate, he muttered, "Handle it, Maya," and walked away. Ethan felt his fists clench. He wanted to intervene but knew he couldn't blow his cover, not yet. Maya managed to calm the customer down, but when the man left, she quickly excused herself and disappeared into the back room. Ethan caught Lily's eye. "I'll be right back," he said, heading toward the back room. He found Maya sitting on a crate near the stock shelves, her face buried in her hands. "Are you okay?" he asked, keeping his voice low. Maya looked up, startled, and quickly wiped her eyes. "Yeah, I'm fine, just long day." "You shouldn't have to deal with that alone," Ethan said. "Where was Rick?" Maya let out a bitter laugh. "Where he always is, doing nothing, but it's whatever. It's just how things are around here." Her words hit Ethan like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just one bad day or one bad manager. It was a culture he hadn't realized had taken root under his own leadership. As the shift wound down, Ethan noticed Rick near the entrance, chatting with a friend who had stopped by. They were laughing loudly while the rest of the staff scrambled to finish their closing duties. Ethan decided to test something. He approached Rick, still in his Tom persona. "Hey Rick," he said, pretending to look uncertain. "I noticed the shelves in aisle 3 are almost empty. Should I restock them before we close?" Rick barely glanced at him. "Nah, leave it. Someone else can do it tomorrow, just clock out when you're done." Ethan nodded, his stomach turning. If Rick didn't care about the store's operations, he certainly didn't care about the people working under him. As Ethan left the store that night, he knew the time for observation was over. Tomorrow, it was time to confront the truth and start making things right. The next morning, Ethan arrived at the store earlier than usual, still in his Tom disguise. His mind was racing, replaying everything he had seen over the past 2 days. Today, he wasn't going to wait for things to unfold. He planned to push buttons and see how far the cracks in the store's foundation went. Rick strolled in 10 minutes late for the morning meeting, carrying a coffee and looking like he hadn't slept much. Ethan noticed Lily and Maya whispering to each other in the corner. Maya looked like she was dreading the start of her shift, while Lily was doing her best to keep her upbeat energy intact. Rick clapped his hands lazily to get everyone's attention. "All right, people. Same drill as yesterday. Don't bother me unless it's an emergency. Let's go." Ethan raised his hand, playing the unsure new employee. Rick, are we going to go over assignments for the shift?" Rick rolled his eyes. "Tom, right? Yeah, you're on registers, same as yesterday, don't overthink it." Ethan nodded, biting his tongue. His goal wasn't to blow his cover just yet, but Rick's indifference was becoming harder to stomach. As the day went on, Ethan noticed small things that painted a bigger picture. A customer asked for help finding an item in the baking aisle, and the stockboy, a nervous kid named Jared, looked lost as he tried to help. "I'm sorry," Jared said quietly. "I don't really know where that is. I think we're short on staff in this section." The customer sighed and walked away, frustrated. Ethan stepped in, offering to help Jared. "Hey, do you get much training here?" he asked as they searched for the item. Jared shook his head. "Not really. Rick just told me to figure it out as I go." "I'm trying, but it's hard when I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing half the time." Ethan's jaw tightened. He thanked Jared for his honesty and sent him back to his duties, making a mental note to address the lack of proper training later. By midday, another situation unfolded. A young mother with a toddler approached Meyer at the service desk. Ethan was nearby, stocking shelves, and overheard their conversation. "Hi, I accidentally bought the wrong size diapers yesterday. Can I exchange them for the right size?" the mother asked, holding up a receipt and an unopened box of diapers. Maya hesitated. "Normally, we'd need the manager to approve exchanges like this, but..." She glanced toward Rick, who was leaning on the counter near the entrance, chatting on his phone. "I'll wait if I have to," the mother said, bouncing her fussy toddler in her arms. Maya sighed and walked over to Rick. Ethan watched as she quietly explained the situation. Rick didn't even look up from his phone. "Just tell her no, we don't do exchanges on stuff like that." She should have read the label. "But it's unopened and she has the receipt," Maya pressed, her voice low but firm. Rick scowled. "I said no. Now get back to work." Maya returned to the desk, her shoulders slumped. "I'm sorry, ma'am," she said softly. "I can't process the exchange without approval, and my manager—" "I understand," the mother said, cutting her off with a tight smile. "Thanks anyway." Ethan couldn't let this go. He stepped in, still in character. "Excuse me," he said to the mother. "I think I saw the right size on the shelf. Let me grab it for you." The mother looked surprised but grateful. Ethan quickly found the correct size and brought it back. "Here," he said quietly, "just take these, I'll cover it." "You don't have to do that," she said, her voice trembling. "I want to," Ethan insisted. "Please." The woman took the diapers, her eyes welling up with tears. "Thank you, really, thank you so much." As she walked away, Ethan caught Maya's eye. She gave him a small, grateful smile, but it was clear she was holding back frustration. He could see how much she wanted to do more, but felt powerless under Rick's leadership. By late afternoon, Ethan had seen enough. He waited until the store quieted down and asked Lily to show him where the break room was. "I just need to grab some water," he said. "Sure, follow me," Lily replied. When they reached the break room, Ethan closed the door behind them. "Lily, can I ask you something?" She looked at him curiously. "Of course." "Why do you stay here?" he asked. "You're clearly one of the best employees in this place. You care about the customers, you go out of your way to help people. Why stick around when things seem so broken?" Lily hesitated, then shrugged. "I guess I just believe in the idea of what this place could be. It's not perfect, but the customers deserve kindness. And honestly, some of the people I work with, like Maya and Jared, they make it worth it. I don't want to leave them behind." Ethan nodded, feeling a mix of admiration and guilt. He had created this company with the intention of building a place where both employees and customers felt valued. Somewhere along the way, that vision had been lost. "Thanks for sharing that," he said. As they stepped out of the break room, Ethan saw Rick standing near the office door, watching them with narrowed eyes. "Hey, what are you two doing back there?" Rick barked. "Just grabbing some water," Lily said quickly, holding up her bottle. Rick grunted and walked off, but Ethan could feel the tension in the air. It was time to act. After his shift ended, Ethan headed to his car and pulled out his phone. He called his regional manager, a woman named Susan who had worked with him for years. "Susan, I need you at store 7 first thing tomorrow morning," he said. "Is something wrong?" she asked, concerned. "I'll explain everything when you get here," Ethan replied. His voice was steady, but inside he was bracing for what was to come. Tomorrow, the investigations would end and the reckoning would begin. The following morning, Ethan walked into the store, no longer in his disguise. He was wearing a crisp button-down shirt and slacks, his usual CEO attire. Susan, his regional manager, was waiting for him just outside the store, looking concerned but ready. "I'm here," Susan said as he approached. "What's going on, Ethan? You sounded serious on the phone." "You'll see soon enough," Ethan replied, his expression firm. "I need you to observe everything, and I'll explain as we go." They entered the store together, and Ethan's sudden appearance immediately caught the staff off guard. Maya, who was behind the service desk, froze for a moment, her eyes widening in recognition. Lily, busy helping a customer near the registers, glanced over and did a double take. Jared, who was stocking shelves, nearly dropped a box of cereal when he noticed Ethan. But it was Rick's reaction that was the most telling. His casual posture stiffened, and he quickly put away his phone, forcing a smile. "Mr. Dawson," Rick said, walking toward him. "What a surprise." "We weren't expecting you today," Ethan gave a curt nod. "I thought I'd stop by and see how things are running here." Rick laughed nervously. "Well, everything's great. You know, the usual ups and downs, but we're keeping things smooth." Ethan's expression didn't change. "Good, let's have a meeting with the entire team." "Right now?" Rick blinked, clearly caught off guard. Sure. Let me just now, Rick," Ethan said firmly, cutting him off. Rick nodded quickly and hurried off to gather the staff. Within minutes, everyone was assembled near the registers. The air was thick with tension, and the employees exchanged nervous glances. Maya looked like she was bracing herself for bad news, while Lily stood tall, her gaze steady. Jared shifted uncomfortably, clearly unsure of what was happening. Ethan stepped forward, his voice calm but commanding. "Good morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ethan Dawson, the CEO of this company. Over the past few days, I've been working here undercover as Tom. Gasps rippled through the group. Maya's hand flew to her mouth and Jared's eyes widened in disbelief. Lily's jaw dropped before she quickly composed herself. Rick, on the other hand, went pale, his forced smile vanishing. I came here because I wanted to see how this store operates firsthand, Ethan continued. I've seen some incredible things, acts of kindness, dedication, and hard work. But I've also seen things that are unacceptable and need to change immediately. Ethan turned to Lily first. Lily, you're a shining example of what this company should stand for. I watched you go out of your way to help customers, even using your own money to make sure a family didn't go without groceries. Your kindness and dedication haven't gone unnoticed. Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she held them back, nodding silently. To show my appreciation, Ethan said, I'm promoting you to assistant manager, effective immediately. You'll also receive a significant pay increase. And if you ever need additional resources or support, you'll have a direct line to me. The employees broke into applause, and Lily finally allowed herself to smile, a mixture of shock and gratitude on her face. Thank you, she said quietly. I don't even know what to say. Ethan turned to Maya next. Maya, I saw how hard you work juggling multiple roles, staying calm under pressure and handling situations that should never have been yours to handle alone. You've been doing the job of two people, and that's not okay. Maya looked down, embarrassed, but Ethan's tone softened. You deserve better. Starting today, we're hiring additional staff to lighten the load, and you'll be receiving a raise as well. You've earned it. Maya's eyes welled up and she nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. Thank you. Then Ethan's gaze shifted to Rick and the room went silent. Rick, Ethan said, his voice sharp now, your behavior these past few days has been appalling. You've ignored your team, dismissed customers, and failed to lead this store. You're supposed to be the manager, but your actions or lack of them have hurt everyone here. Rick stammered, Mr. Dawson, I can explain. Ethan held up a hand to stop him. There's nothing to explain. Your lack of leadership has created a toxic environment and I won't tolerate it. Effective immediately, you're terminated. Rick's face turned red. You can't, I can, and I just did, Ethan said, his tone final. Susan will handle your exit paperwork. You need to leave this store now. Rick opened his mouth to argue but seemed to think better of it. He glanced around the room, his face twisting with anger and humiliation before storming off. Once Rick was gone, Ethan addressed the rest of the team. I know things haven't been easy here, but that changes today. Susan will be working closely with all of you to ensure you have the support you need. Additional staff will be hired, proper training will be implemented, and I'll personally be checking in to make sure these changes stick. The employees exchanged hopeful glances, the tension in the room finally starting to lift. Lily stepped forward, her voice steady. Thank you, Mr. Dawson. This means a lot to all of us. Ethan nodded. It's the least I can do. You've all been carrying the weight of this store, and it's time you're treated with the respect and support you deserve. As the meeting ended and the employees returned to their duties, the mood in the store was noticeably lighter. Maya smiled for the first time in days, Jared seemed more confident, and Lily walked with her head held high. Ethan stayed for a while longer, speaking individually with employees and answering their questions. Before he left, he pulled Susan aside. Keep me updated on everything. I want to know if there's even the slightest issue. You've got it, Susan said. And Ethan, I have to say, this was the right call. Ethan nodded, finally allowing himself a small smile. It was overdue. As he walked out of the store, Ethan felt a sense of relief. The problems weren't fully fixed yet, but the foundation for change had been laid. And this time, He wouldn't let himself lose sight of what truly mattered: the people who made his company what it was.